Ooh, we've got threats coming from North Korea. Also, John Bolton is speaking out, and I'll tell you the best way to get fired. Christianity. What's Christian? Who should you vote for if you're a Christian? There are lectures everywhere. I'll explain all that to you. And the first very own brand new host, Mike Slater, joins me. All that's coming up right now on I'm Right. North Korea. I feel like most of the time we choose to forget that there's a North Korea. I actually find this fascinating. I took a couple moments today to do the things you people normally do, things like think. And when I was going over North Korea, it's really shocking. We realize they're a nuclear power, right? They have the ability to drop nuclear weapons on other nations. We also realize they're a completely rogue state with one man in charge of everything. We also realize there are concentration camps in North Korea, and not like the made-up ones the left talked about on our southern border, like real concentration camps where people were dying, starving. Kind of a big deal. But we choose to, and I don't know why this is the case, we choose to just forget that North Korea is there. And it is funny when you think about it, not that I want to get sidetracked here. Think about all the organizations and laws and groups and things they've passed to make sure that, concentration camps and genocide and things like that never happen again. People love using those words, right? This will never happen again. Never forget. We can never allow this to happen again. We need United Nations. We need a NATO. We need Geneva Convention. There have to be rules. And meanwhile, there's North Korea, imprisoning and slaughtering their own people with nuclear weapons that can vaporize cities across the globe. Be that as it may. Donald Trump has made it a priority in his presidency to attempt to get North Korea to stand down, to attempt to get them to be, less insane. He's been very frank about the whole thing. He even went over. He shook little Kim's hand, did his thing. He's trying to be nice while at the same time threatening them. Donald Trump's a deal maker. That's what he wants. You can criticize the process all you want. Well, currently we're at that frosty stage in our relationship with North Korea, and apparently we're a little on the outs. Here.
Clearly, we think that the political solution is the best way forward to denuclearize the peninsula and to address North Korea's programs. I have two functions here, as I've said before. One is to ensure that we are in a high state of readiness, prepared to fight and win tonight, if need be, and I'm confident in that. And secondly, to enable our diplomats. So I remain hopeful that we could, again, get the process started again and remain on the diplomatic path.
Well, if you were trying to wade through all the political terms and stuff there, let me boil it down to you. We'd like to be friends with North Korea, but we're ready to kill them all if we have to. That's essentially what he said in that long 1-minute clip. Now, that's how nations like us have to negotiate with places like North Korea. Is North Korea going to do a, quote, Christmas surprise like they threatened to do on us? No. No, we can wipe out North Korea like that. And as of this moment, they don't have the long-range missile capability to take one of their nuclear weapons and plant it in the middle of San Francisco. They're developing it. Their long-range missiles are not getting worse. Every test they do, they're getting better, but setting that aside for now. Let us go to former National Security Advisor John Bolton. John Bolton was asked about North Korea, of course, and he had this to say. The idea that we are somehow exerting maximum pressure on North Korea is just unfortunately not true. Well, ladies and gentlemen, allow us to address that for a moment. Is it true? Is it not true? Are we exerting maximum pressure? Are we not? The truth is, I don't know. You don't know. But here's why it bothered me. Not that I have anything in the world against John Bolton. Frankly, I don't know the man. I haven't studied him that much. All I understand, he's a bit of a, war hawk kind of a guy. That's fine. He and I probably disagree on some foreign policy. Let me explain something to you, and this goes way beyond John Bolton. It goes beyond Donald Trump. It goes beyond North Korea. This goes to you. There is a right and a wrong way to do things in this life, not only because, there are moral rights and wrongs, but to set you up for the future, to set you up for future success. And you can call me old-fashioned. You can tell me that's not the way things are done anymore. But I come from an era and I come from a family where if you get your rear end fired or laid off, justified or not, you shake everybody's hand. You say thank you. That boss who you'd like to spit in his face, you smile and shake his hand and say, thank you for the opportunity, sir. And you wave goodbye on the way out the door, making sure to turn in your parking pass. All these things you see in the movies of you freaking out at your desk and throwing things and, no, I'm going to go leave a dump on the floor in the boss's office. Look at how I got him. Get you 5 seconds of satisfaction. Get you 5 seconds of feeling good about yourself. Maybe you get to tell that story to all your buddies or on social media later on that day. Hey, I told my boss to go screw himself when he fired me today. And everybody be like, dude, that's so epic. That's so great. You ever going to get that letter of recommendation? You 1,000% positive you're never going to work for that person again or want to work for that person again? And before you say, yeah, I do, he's a jerk. What if he is a jerk? What if he's one of the vice presidents at the next company you apply for? You don't know where you're going to be in the future. You don't know. Even me, I'm all-knowing, and I don't know where I'll be in the future. I don't know where you'll be in the future, and neither do you. So whether you think it's morally right or not, when you get fired from your job, when you quit your ex, when you break up with the girlfriend or the boyfriend, don't go on Facebook. You wouldn't believe this. His breath stunk and I hated his car. Just shut up and say, I wish him well. Just shut up and say, I'm glad the company gave me an opportunity. Look forward to being with them again one day. You know why? Not just for the future, but because it makes you look good. It makes you look good to everybody around you. And don't listen to all those backbiting little snobs and snipes, all your friends. No, tell me what it's really like at the office. Tell me how much you hate them. People love gossip, but they don't respect the gossiper, ever in this world. And Donald Trump, as much as I have enjoyed so many parts of his presidency, and I have, he's been outstanding for the conservative things that I care about, things like judges, things like regulations, things like taxes. He's much more in line with my foreign policy than past presidents have been. I love Donald Trump as president so far. I think he's done an outstanding job. And remember, I'm a former Trump hater during the primary, switched over and voted for him in the general. He has two humongous blind spots in his presidency. Nobody's perfect, except me. One, he spends way too much money, has no regard whatsoever for keeping spending in check. Tax revenues are actually up thanks to the Trump tax cuts and thanks to regulations. Businesses are booming, everything's going fine. But we're spending it faster than we can make it. Just signed that $1.4 trillion spending bill, disgraceful. So he spends too much money, that's one. Two, his hiring decisions are among the worst I've ever seen in my entire life for a president, ever. This man hired Omarosa to be in the White House, who of course got fired in like 30 seconds and then had to run out and write a book and got to do the cable news tour of, I secretly know Donald Trump's the devil. Anthony Scaramucci, there's not enough time to make a list in all the weapons grade losers that have walked through this White House and had so many things to say on the way out the door. I'm actually not lumping John Bolton in with those other insane people, but I will tell you this, yet another person on the way out the door who can't keep his friggin' mouth shut. Do you know what you're supposed to do? Especially if you're a man who has ever spent even 5 seconds as the national security advisor to the President of the United States? When he fires you, when he lets you go, when he says, I don't have any time for you anymore, maybe he says privately, go screw yourself. I want you to leave and I never want to see your face again. Do you know what you say? You walk out, you stand in front of the cameras and you say, I'm grateful that on my resume, when they put me in the ground, it will say, former National Security Advisor to the President of the United States of America. So to Donald Trump, I would just like to say, thank you for the opportunity, sir. It was an honor. That's how you handle your business, ladies and gentlemen. Let it be known. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I'm right. We'll talk to Drew Berquist about it in a sec. Joining me now is host of This Is My Show with Drew Berquist. Drew, we're talking a little North Korea today, and I have to be honest, man. I feel like this is just human nature, maybe, or maybe it's because they're on the other side of the world. I feel like maybe we don't talk enough about the rogue nuclear state on the other side of the planet.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. First of all, yeah, I mean, whether it's Iran, which still doesn't get talked about enough, or North Korea over there, they're absolutely right. No one talks about it. Everyone Monday morning quarterbacks this thing to death and has all the ideas on it, but it's an issue that is often left off the table, and it's a pretty big deal. I mean, it has a lot of implications, not just for us, but globally.
Drew, this Kim Jong-un, everyone talks about dictator and crazy person and this, but cutting through all the hyperbole, is he a legitimate nutball? Was he just a really hardcore leader? What is he? Are there people around him who have power? Does he have all the power? I feel like they're so secretive, we only know what we're fed about North Korea.
I think it's yes to all of those in kind of a variety. I think that he has a lot of people pushing him and doesn't actually have all the power. I think there's a lot of generals that carry a lot of clout and wasta over there that people don't pay attention to and don't know the names of, but kind of the way the system is built up there, it's as such that they have power and influence, and who has the relationship with China, who has the relationship with these guys, and he kind of has to be this crazy guy to stay on point. I think he is certifiably crazy, but I also think that as much as I don't like the man and he needs to take a dirt nap, that he's also clever in many regards.
Drew, you called Kim Jong-un clever. What do you mean by that, clever? How's he clever?
Well, I think that, look, the bottom line is he is just enough of a wild card. He's this young dude who's crazy. He's got bombastic rhetoric. No one knows exactly how he operates because no one ever has full-on conversations. We've had the two summits and conversations more as of late, and conversations, of course, with Secretary of State Pompeo. But no one knows exactly what he's thinking, and I'm not sure that he exactly does either. But they also, as an administration and as a government over there, leverage that to their benefit, because no one knows when they make these threats about tests, right? We're going to do this, or we're going to annihilate this place or this person or this country. You don't know how serious to take it. And I think that it honestly, as simplistic as it may sound, throws people in the gut, the White House, the State Department, all the different departments within our national security and government apparatus. It just throws them off their game, because it's like, how serious do we take them? Could we crush North Korea? Yes. Are there global implications if a war, starts in terms of how Russia and China get involved? Yes. And then who is this guy and how serious should we take him? The answer is, of course, you do need to take him seriously, but because you don't know how he's going to react, and he knows that he's this hold-up leader who's kind of a hermit who comes out and threatens people every once in a while, then disappears. I don't think anyone has a great strategy or understanding of how he operates, and that's why I would give him a little bit of clever status, is because he continues to get away with everything he says and does.
You mentioned Russia and China, and I wanted to press you on that just a little bit, because I don't understand fully the relationship between North Korea and Russia and China. And look, we as Americans, we should all hate commies. That's just the nature of the beast. It stands opposite of what we believe here in this country. Screw every single commie. But we like to think that because they're both, even though Russia's not anymore, because they're both kind of communist nations, or thought of that way, that Russia and China are best pals. And you know what? They're probably best pals with North Korea too, and that's not necessarily the case. So what is the relationship with Russia and North Korea, and China and North Korea?
Well, again, I don't want to oversimplify. I think that there's strategic and economic, aspects to being in that region of the world. Oil, money, trade, everything that's going on over there, and Russia and China's willingness to leverage their relationship with North Korea for their own benefit, and vice versa. But I think a big reason for it is Russia and China are our biggest two foes. There's no doubt about it. They want to be America. They're not, because we're awesome and they're in second and third place, and they always will be. But they want to do anything and everything that they can to counter us and challenge us on the global scale. So you always see them take the side of North Korea, Iran, all these other rogue states, these enemies, whether it's, someone like North Korea who's nuclear capable, whether it's a state sponsor of terror like Iran who's also nuclear capable, whatever the case might be, they tend to take that side, leverage relationships that we won't do, again, for economic and military growth and benefit to them. But I think also to kind of shove it in the eye of America. And I think that is something that can't be forgotten in this conversation at all times.
Drew, John Bolton. Now, obviously, people have several disagreements with John Bolton. A lot of people love him. A lot of people hate him. He had a little something to say on the way out the door of the White House, essentially saying people that say we're pressing North Korea as hard as we can, they're lying. What aren't we doing to North Korea? We have these crippling sanctions on them, besides a couple Trump tweets, that say nice things about Kim Jong. Is there something else we should be doing here?
Well, again, that goes back to, I don't know if anyone has the exact right answer for this. I saw his, and by the way, he's got a great mustache. I'll give him that. But
he does.
I saw his comments. I think that, yes, maybe there is more we could be doing. The sanctions, you tend to go sanctions, economic thing, something that's going to have an economic, impact on said country. And then, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot in between there and armed conflict, or at least more quiet conflict. And the trick, again, comes into the whole thing that comes into play is Russia and China. So when you move beyond economic sanctions, you move beyond trying to block trade here, block, trade routes, stop them from, one thing Bolton brought up was stopping them from intercepting oil tankers and diverting them back to North Korea for their benefit. You should be doing anything and everything you can in that capacity. And on a lot of fronts, we're doing it. But the problem is it gets really tricky after that, because once you go beyond that, it's either you offer a veiled threat and a red line like Obama did with Syria, or you say you cross this next line and it's game on. And what game on looks like with them, because of the global impact and because of who are their friends and allies, is where it gets really tricky. And I think that's why every president to this period, this president right now, has struggled with going to that next level, because it gets really complicated.
All right, setting aside Bolton, setting aside North Korea, although I'm obviously kind of talking about John Bolton here, I have this thing, maybe you disagree. I hate it when a buddy of mine gets a divorce, a woman gets a divorce, and has to go trash her ex, go trash his ex, to all his buddies, everyone that's all on social media. And I hate the same thing about employers when they leave a company, whether they got fired, whether they quit, whatever the case may be, that leave and go trash the place. Why can't people just walk out with their head held high? As the old saying goes, the best revenge is living well.
Yeah, I don't know. That's we'd be a much better place if people would do that, but you're right. I mean, everyone does it. They use social media. They use any and every outlet they can to use the court of public opinion to try and sway people to their side, when really what all of us want to do is just move on, get better, come up with something that works, for in this case, John Bolton, for the White House, for the policy towards North Korea, et cetera. But that's just not, at this day and age, you're considered, fill in the blank, whatever word you want to use, if you don't go and do that. Hey, go get a book deal, go throw and drag everyone through the mud, use the court of public opinion to share your story. Again, I'm the opposite. I'd rather just go this way, move on, do something better, and hopefully it comes back and proves that my point was right, if that is the case down the road. But that's just not how the world operates, and it certainly would be a better place if that's how it was.
Host of This Is My Show with Drew Berquist. Drew, thank you for joining me, my friend.
Thanks for having me. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you may imagine, people have opinions about the magazine Christianity Today that everybody just heard about. We're going to talk about Christianity and Trump. Hang on. Christianity, a touchy subject that people don't really want to talk about, but since I don't care about your complaint emails, I talk about it all the time. I'll talk about whatever I feel like and always will on this show. Well, there's a magazine out there that I had never heard of before, you probably have never heard of before, and it's called Christianity Today. And as the articles of impeachment move to the Senate or don't move to the Senate, nobody can know really at this time what Nancy Pelosi is going to do about it. And look, that's to be expected because Nancy Pelosi probably can't remember what she had for breakfast at this point. But the articles of impeachment have passed the House of Representatives. And as they passed, Christianity Today came out with a headline that said, quote, Trump should be removed from office. As you may imagine, with a headline like that, that's going to get the editor of Christianity Today invited on virtually every cable and major news network in the history of the world. Why? Because the best way to get your face on TV is to say something insulting about a sitting Republican. So here he was.
The point of my argument is not to judge him as a person. in the eyes of God. That's not my job. But to judge his public moral character and ask, has he gone so far that the evangelical constituency that we represent, can we in good conscience do the trade-off anymore? He gives us what we need on pro-life, but he's got this bad character. And the fundamental argument I'm making is we crossed a line somewhere in the impeachment hearings, at least in my mind, that balance no longer works.
Christianity Today now weighing in on the foreign policy phone calls Donald Trump has with the head of Ukraine. I didn't see that part in my Bible. But anyway, Donald Trump, as you can imagine, took to Twitter and said, quote, I guess the magazine Christianity Today is looking for Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, or those of the socialist communist bent to guard their religion. How about Sleepy Joe? The fact is, no president has ever done what I have done for evangelicals or religion itself. Franklin Graham, obviously Billy Graham's son, responded as well, saying, yes, my father Billy Graham founded Christianity Today, but no, he would not agree with their opinion piece. In fact, he would be very disappointed for Christianity Today to side with the Democrat Party in a totally partisan attack on the President of the United States of America is unfathomable. Now, what should you think about this? Probably nothing. And here's what I mean by that. You vote how you feel you have to vote in the future. I will tell you how I vote. I don't care, not nearly as much as most people do, about Donald Trump's mean tweets, even about things that I hate that he's done, about calling Stormy Daniels horseface. That's an ugly thing. That's not something I really want to hear from the President of the United States of America. I don't like that. I don't like many things all Republicans do. They are far too often the party of big spending, the party of big government. We saw they just recently voted to raise the age where you have to be 21 to purchase tobacco. I find these things to be big government and insane. However, and I'm just telling you how I do it, as long as the Democrat Party, all of them currently, the Democrat presidential primary, every single one of them has come out in favor of slitting an unborn child's vocal cords so the mother can't hear the child make noises as it's aborted inside of her. Every single one of them supports that. As long as they support that, I don't feel like I have a choice in the party I have to vote for. If that sounded too graphic, I'm not sorry. That's the reality of it. It's time we start accepting what is happening in abortion clinics across the United States of America. That doesn't mean you judge anyone who's ever had one. Look, we're all fallen. We were all screwed up. I certainly have more times than I could possibly count. But the truth of the matter is we need to start discussing how we've executed 40, 50 million children in this country and how the modern day Democrat Party thinks third trimester or even right up before birth abortion, no problem. My hands are tied in what I view as morally right and morally wrong as long as they do that. Donald Trump could undo his pants and moon the United States of America on national television tonight, and I still would have no choice but to vote his way as long as that party believes in the wholesale slaughter of people who are defenseless and haven't even been born yet. That's how I do it. Now, I will say this. Donald Trump saying he's the biggest defender of religion and things like that. Guard your religion. I don't go with that either. I mean, if he's God, he's all powerful, and I say he is, he doesn't need an American president to defend it. I will say this, pro-life is essential. As far as Franklin Graham goes, what his father would have said, would not have said, I don't know. I will tell you this, one of the things I always loved and admired about Billy Graham, I'm as partisan a right-wing hack as it comes, but almost every single president invited in Billy Graham to sit and pray with him because he didn't play like that. He didn't go that way. And I think there's still something to be said for that kind of quiet honor in this day and age from every pastor in the United States of America. But I'm also not going to sit here and sugarcoat it for you. Christianity's under attack in this country. It is. It just is. We don't have to get doomsday about it. They're not going to start hanging Christians on the cross again tomorrow in the United States of America. The truth is, if you're a Christian here in this country, you have about as good a life as any Christian in the world can, completely free to do what you want. But wholesale parts of this society are dedicated to attacking you, most importantly, the LGBT bully mob. For some reason, they never seem to be able to find any of the local mosques, but they can sure find the local church that talks about marriage. Be that as it may. We're going to move on to something else. The hand signal game at the Army-Navy football game. I just wanted to address this very briefly. We all saw what happened. Cadets got put on national TV. They made the little circle thing, which is just a dumb game that young people play. I played it plenty of times myself. You hold up the circle, you get a buddy to look at it, you get to sock him one. That's just the way the game works, okay? Everybody likes a good chance to punch their buddy in the arm. It was nothing major. However, the American media is so deranged by the existence of President Donald Trump that they can't ever just let something dumb go. Anytime there's an opportunity to potentially go after Trump, they pounce. And so they destroy these cadets. It's a racist symbol. That's a white supremacist symbol, when anyone with half a brain could look at it and see what they were doing. The Navy Chief of Operations, Mike Gilday, said, to be clear, the Navy does not tolerate racism in any form. And while the investigation determined there was no racist intent behind these actions, our behavior must be professional at all times and not give cause for others to question our core values of honor, courage, and commitment. We must be standard bearers. We must be above reproach. That is what sets us apart from the fighting force, yada, yada, yada. All that's just fine. The point I have is this. The media screwed up again. They attacked these cadets, accused them of being white supremacists. They destroyed them. I'm sure they've had threats. The American media's main problem with covering events during the Trump era is when they get a story, a potential story that they want to be true, they don't do what every media outlet should always do, which is take a minute and say, man, I really want this to be true. I better verify. No, they do the exact opposite. What's that? A story I want it to be true? Let's run with it. Every single time. Every single time. And that's why every single media mistake in the Trump era has all slanted one way, the anti-Trump way. It's a disgrace what's happened. All right, we're not done yet. I'm about to talk to Mike Slater, the first very own Mike Slater. Hang on. Well, this is a special treat for me. As most of you know, I really try to stay focused on myself because I only care about myself. But I do love it when our station brings on talent, and we brought on quite a new one now. Mike Slater is now ours. He belongs to the first, and he joins me now. I highly recommend tuning into his show. I do. Mike, I'm in a mood, man. Welcome to the network, but I am in a mood. I understand everyone's talking about impeachment this and impeachment that and McConnell and Pelosi and Trump and all that. Dude, $1.37 trillion. That's the spending bill that's going through, and it's loaded with more crap than I don't have enough show to list all the garbage that's in this thing. Why should I give a crap about impeachment anymore, Mike?
Man,
both parties are apparently the same.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. First of all, you're the only person who can get away with an intro of, as much as I love talking about me, here's someone else. And I love you for that. So I'm a conservative. I'm just conservative by my nature. I'm a conservative guy. And every once in a while, I flirt with this idea of joining the Republican tribe, right? Like going all in, being like, I'm a member of the Republican Party. And then they do something like this. And it's like, oh, this is awful. What the heck is wrong with you guys? Why are you there? What is the point of you exactly? If you are, as you said, the exact same, if not worse, than the Democrats. It's outrageous.
I have to tell you, you nailed it. You nailed it for me, because this happens to me all the time, Mike. It happened to me during the Kavanaugh trial when the Democrats would make me so mad, and I was screaming at them and screw everything, and I'm a Republican now. And then some kid got assaulted for wearing a MAGA hat. And I like Trump, but I don't wear his pajamas. But I went out and bought a MAGA hat, just to say screw you. And then this impeachment thing, I'm mad about it. I think it's wasting the country's time. And I've been all in and all in and all in. And then I find out at the end of the impeachment thing, they were all in a back room together figuring out ways to screw me and screw my kids.
Yeah, and listen, I like Trump. Trump's done some great things. But this was one of the things that he was supposed to do, right? I mean, we talked about cutting regulations, and from what we know, like that's a thing that's happened, and I'm down with that. That's great. But the spending is the big one. Stop taking my money. This is not a hard one, Republicans. Like, this should be priority number one. And it's been like the lowest priority. It's been the opposite of a priority. They've been making it worse. It makes no sense.
What if we're really screwed, Mike, and the problem is not necessarily the Republicans? What if the problem is the American people have no appetite for cutting spending? Because I'll tell you, man, I ran for Congress a decade ago, back during the Tea Party and all that, and everybody, to a man, cut spending, Obama's spending too much, cut spending. Well, you can't cut mine. Yeah, well, you can't cut what I want. You can cut what they want. What if that's just what it comes down to, man? The public says they want to cut spending, but they don't.
Listen, I'm hoping that the first, right, being a younger geared network, we can have this conversation in an honest way. Because, I'm on regular AM radio and it skews a little older, and you're going to get a ton of people who are on Social Security and on Medicare and Medi-Cal here in California who say the exact thing that you just said. But I'm hoping there's enough young people listening now who fully realize that they're not going to see any of their Social Security promises. Like, it ain't happening. And hopefully we can have a real conversation about how to get the heck out of this whole Ponzi scheme, because it's going to bankrupt us all. And we have to have some principled decisions made that this is wrong. We got to get out. Even if it hurts.
It is, and no politician wants to touch it, man. And then now with the 10-foot pole, you even mentioned Medicare or Social Security. The next words out of your mouth better be how you're going to protect it, or you're screwed politically, which makes things difficult when there's 10,000 baby boomers retiring every single day. But I think you and I might be able to make a dent on it, mainly because we're so handsome. I mean, more so me than somewhat you. All right, Afghanistan. Are we ever leaving, Mike? Ever?
No. Okay. Let me jump in. Let me tell you something. I got to commend you for this. So I read the papers, the Afghanistan papers, and I thought, geez, this looks bad. This is not good. What can I say about it? Like, I was hesitant to go all in, and then I saw your tweet. You sent out a tweet that said this is the biggest story of probably of the decade, if not our entire generation. And no one's talking about it, and it's outrageous. And truly, that gave me that last kick in the butt courage to say, no, wait, you know what? I'm going all in on this. This is crazy. So I appreciate you doing that, because on Monday in particular on our show, we're going to break down, we're just going to go through for an hour. We're just going to break down all the outrageous things that have been released. So I want to thank you for giving me truly like that last bit of courage to speak the truth to this, because it is the great outrage of our time. And I love how the way you spun it. Because you said something in the tweet. You said our men and women and their families deserve better. And what's so wild is a lot of people, that's their argument for staying in the Iraq war. They're like, oh, here are these people who've been injured. We need to stay forever because they deserve better. And you flipped it around. You're like, no. That's all the reason to come home, because we don't want any more people dying. So I love your take on that. It's really important.
Well, it's just because it's true, man. I mean, we have to, what gets lost, in the same way when we talk about fiscal conservatism, or when we talk about conservatism, conservatives make this mistake all the time of only wanting to talk dollars and cents. Well, socialism doesn't work because it's too expensive. Well, that's true, but it's also evil. It's demonically evil to rip people's lives apart like that. And the same way, we do the same thing when it comes to the war. We want to talk about, $1 trillion and these numbers, and we've got 20,000 wounded, and all those things are just numbers. You put a face to that, you show somebody, this guy came back, he committed suicide because of what he saw. This family, they had two kids under 3. They'll never know their father. This dad, this dad and mom, they don't get to spend Christmas in, 6 days with their son because he got blown up in Afghanistan. These stories are real, and they're still happening. And we're talking about some stupid freaking impeachment that everybody knows already the way it's going to go. And what makes this really egregious to me is we've lied to these guys. We've lied to these guys. We take our best people, our most patriotic people, and we throw them in some hellhole like Afghanistan, and we throw them over there lying to them. We have Donald Rumsfeld's quote from 2003 saying, we don't even know who the enemy is. Man, that's a disgrace. That's a national disgrace.
So, amen. And I've heard from people for years, stay the course. We got to stay the course. And now it is beyond a shadow of a doubt. What course? There is no course. There was never a course, as you just talked about with that Rumsfeld memo. And we have all these generals who said, we haven't the foggiest idea what we were doing. And that's still true. There's no course to stay. There was never an idea of what we were doing there. We should have avenged, 9/11, and that's it. Come home. But that's the problem. We're never going to leave now because we have this sunk cost fallacy that, well, 2,000 men have already died. We have to stay the course so that what? In their memory or whatever? No. In their memory, you get out of there and make sure that more people can have Christmases at home and they're not robbed from different families. It's outrageous. Let me throw one thing your way on this. Because a buddy of mine he's been to Afghanistan a couple times. And he's kind of wishy-washy on this stuff. And his rebuttal to it was, well, we've known about this for a long time. None of this was really new revelation. We've been debating it for a long time. And, if we don't stay, then, bad things will happen there. And there'll be another 9/11. What do you say to that?
Well, here's what I say to that. One, he's right, and he's right and he's right. Everybody who's been there, I mean, I still have so many of my brothers are there. They're still in there. They've rotated in and out. Everybody knew. Everybody knew this is crap. Anybody who's been in there or served read this and thought, oh yeah, that all makes sense. I knew this already. So he's right about that. I liked the fact that it was one big expose in print that could be handed to Donald Trump and say, look what's happening. So I liked that part. But look, here's another thing he's right about, and this is the sad part. He's not right that we should stay for this reason. That part he's wrong about. But when we leave, the Taliban are still the most powerful military force in the country besides us. When we leave, they will come in, and anybody who's ever helped us will be tortured and maimed and raped and have horrible things done to them like medieval times. And our news crews, because they'll try to use it as a cudgel to beat on anyone who pulled us out, will be there filming the whole thing. And that's the problem, Mike, is I don't think the American people are ready for what will happen if we leave. It's just like we just talked about with spending. Everyone wants spending cut, just don't cut mine. Everyone wants to leave Afghanistan. Just make sure it's real peaceful when we go. Well, that's not how that works. If you want to go, you're going to have to accept what happens when you go.
Yeah, that sucks. You're right. That sucks. But I'm not sending my kid over there. He's 3 years. Yeah. My son's Jack, 3 years old. I'm not sending him there so that what? The Taliban doesn't take power? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. We're talking to Mike Slater of The First now. We have to take a quick break to pay some bills, and we'll be right back. We're going to talk a little culture war stuff with Mike. Hang on. Joining me again, Mike Slater with The First. Mike, I understand that I am up against the clock because both of us tend to talk too much. Mainly that was me, not you. But I wanted to ask you really quickly about culture war stuff. This is one of these things that so many people on the right are afraid to fight. Nobody wants to be called a bigoted or, intolerant or anything like that. But the bottom line is it is important, and we are losing that culture war. How do we turn that around?
Yeah, I'm all in. I'm all in on this now. So I started off as a fiscal conservative, or just like a fiscal guy, right? My radio show was mostly entirely money-related things. And I wonder when it was. Maybe it was when I started having kids or getting married. I don't remember. But I remember reading a long time ago this Breitbart quote, Andrew Breitbart quote, that politics is downhill of culture. And I first read that. It didn't really make sense. It didn't click with me until years later. And I was like, oh, yeah, culture is everything. Everything is downhill of culture. The culture in my home, the culture of our country, the culture of different regions of America. So I went on this long study of what is culture, what are cultural differences between different parts of America and us between different parts of the world. Because part of this is the idea of cultural relativity, that our culture isn't better than any other culture, except we're the worst culture of them all in America. But where did our culture come from? And what is it? And so all these cultural questions. My point is, it's the most important thing. Everything flows downhill from it. So we spent a lot of time talking about it, obviously.
Mike, real quick, 30 seconds before I let you go. Does the Slater family open all your gifts, some gifts, no gifts on Christmas Eve?
Wow, great question. Growing up, we always did pajamas Christmas Eve night. And I think we'll keep that tradition going. But my son's 3, and this is our first Christmas at home. So we have to start doing all these things anew. So not quite sure. What do you guys do?
Well, we do exactly the same thing. We do the pajamas beforehand. We do the pajamas Christmas Eve night, and then I make sure I point out all the nice gifts that they can't open until the next morning, just to grind in that torture for them like a good father would. Tune in to Mike Slater. His show is on the 1st, 12 p.m. Highly recommended. I watch it every single day. Mike, I appreciate you. I'm sure we're going to talk again soon.
Yeah, you're the man, brother. We'll talk soon.
Thank you again to Mike Slater for joining me. Tune into his show on the 1st every single Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. We will be back again to do this. You know we always come back. I'll see you then.